Hey, what's up? I'm Nina, and in today's video, I want to share with you tips that you can use if you want to embrace the frugal life. Now, I really love frugal living. It brings me great joy, and I love talking about it. If you're interested, check out my other videos. I have heaps of videos on frugal living on my channel. Now, let's get into it. Tip number one would be to understand your goals. Understand why you want to start living frugally. Understand your motivation behind it all. When I went frugal, my motivation behind starting the journey was to simply make my life a little simpler, to save a little more money, and to live in alignment with my values. That was actually the most important part. I wanted to travel more, I wanted to move more, and the lifestyle that I was living at the time didn't really allow for those things to happen. And that's why I needed to make a change. And that change was embracing frugal living. So before you get into it, just understand your goals and your motivation. Tip number two is to keep track of all your expenses. I cannot stress this one enough. I think I mention it in almost all my frugal living videos. Just keep track of your expenses, whether that's on paper or through an Excel sheet, a Google sheet, an app, a program. It doesn't really matter. As long as what you're using works for you and as long as you stick with it, that's the most important part. I personally use Google Sheets. I find it really useful. It's always accessible to me, and I've made it a habit. And I've now been tracking my expenses since 2014. Tip number three is make the switch. Have a closer look at your bills. TV bills, internet bills, gas bills, electricity bills. Just have a closer look at them and check if you can switch to a cheaper provider. Can you, for example, switch your phone plan to something that actually works a little better for you? Can you switch your electricity provider? Can you cut your cable bill because you don't actually need it? Just take a deeper look at where your money goes to in those areas and check if you can cut something out. And that in itself can save you heaps of money and can also make your life a whole lot easier. Tip number four is to address your worst spending problem. What's an area that you're literally wasting money? Think about it. That area for me was clothing and accessories. I used to spend way too much money on crappy jewelry and low quality clothing. I also really enjoyed thrift shopping. I still do. However, I no longer go bonkers when I go to a thrift store. I shop with a list in mind. Back in the day, I just picked up whatever I semi-liked and bought it. And whether it was a $1 jumper or a $5 fur hat, I just bought it all. And I ended up with a closet full of clothing that I didn't really need. So have a close look at your life situation and simply figure out in which area you're spending way too much for no reason. Tip number five is a pretty obvious one. Buy only what you need. And yet sometimes buying only what you need can be really tricky. Because what is it that you actually need? I always encourage people to simply look at your needs and your wants and to differentiate between the two. Your needs are usually pretty basic. There's a basic need for shelter, food, and a couple other things. Wants go beyond that. You don't actually need those things, you simply desire them. And prior to buying something, simply ask yourself, is this item going to fulfill a need or a want? If it's going to fulfill a need, get it. And if it's going to fulfill a want, think twice about purchasing it. Tip number six is to reduce your belongings and declutter. I had my big purge in 2014. It's been absolutely liberating and I haven't looked back. If you've got too much stuff, If stuff is taking over the space that you occupy, then it's time to take action. Get rid of what you don't need, and by getting rid of, I mean let go of those items in a responsible manner. Give them to friends, family, donate them, sell them. You get the idea. Get rid of everything that you don't need and take better care of those very items that you do cherish and that you do need. Tip number 7 is to waste less. Waste less water. Water is incredibly precious, and so of course is food. Whenever you can, use up whatever food you have. Whenever you can, drink up whatever you poured in your cup. Shower for no longer than really necessary. And just make sure to keep your overall waste output to the minimum. Tip number 8 is to make more. Make your own beauty products. Make your own body care items. Make your own cleaning products. Everything that you may buy at the store, you can actually make yourself. I'm sure there are a few exceptions. However, most things, yes, you can make yourself. Whenever I'm living somewhere, I make my own soaps. I make my own body butters. I've made my own toothpaste in the past. And those are all things that I absolutely love doing. It's great fun, and it's also something that you can share with your friends and family. And most importantly, it will make you a lot healthier. Because most of the products that you see at the store are loaded with toxic chemicals. Just check the ingredients and you'll see for yourself. Tip number 9 is to get a frugal hobby. I do yoga at home and I love to hike. As I said earlier, I make my own soap whenever I'm living somewhere, and I make a ton of things myself. Those are just things that add loads of value to my life and that bring me great joy. They make me healthier, and yoga and hiking are free activities that I can pretty much do whenever I want to. Just find an activity that you enjoy doing, find something that you can ideally do on a daily basis, and find something that's going to make you a little healthier in the process. Tip number 10 is, and this is the most important one actually, to live a suitable life. I read this in a book and it really resonated with me. What does that mean? Well, for me, it means living a life that's suitable for me. Living a life that resonates with me and my preferences, my likes, my dislikes. If you are starting your frugal journey, make sure that you have a deep look at yourself, at the things that you enjoy, the things that you don't enjoy, and always aim to live a life that's suitable. Because other people may tell you, you shouldn't be doing this or you should be doing this. Just try to cut that out and have a deep look at yourself and how you truly want to be living your life. I know it can be difficult to face other people's expectations, to not live up to other people's expectations. Living a suitable life is a beautiful thing, and I highly encourage you to embrace it. If you are at the beginning of your frugal journey, I would love to hear how it's going for you. And if you have any tips that you would like to share, then please leave them in the comments down below. I always love hearing from you. I hope you have a lovely day and see you next time.